Torah or Parsha Toldot, page 40. Okay, the Rabbi is explaining, we didn't learn for a few days. The Rabbi is explaining that how did Yitzchak understand Yosef? From one side, Shem Shemaim Shogeg Befiv. Sometimes he mentions Hashem's name, sometimes it says Yadayim Kol Yaakov. So he starts explaining that there's Kedusha and there's Klipa. In Kedusha, there's 10. In Klipa, there's 11. Which the Klipa 11th is Levina, which is the intermediary between Kedusha and Klipa. And, because Chayei Kedusha, by definition, means it's Batul Telukus. Klipa, by definition, means it's not Batul Telukus. So what happens? It exists from Kedusha, but the Kedusha becomes absorbed within it, meaning you don't feel it. The Kedusha is not felt there, it's absorbed. And if absorbed, then it's like basically disintegrates. And therefore the Klipa remains Klipa. Okay? And he says, therefore, because they don't feel that level of Kedusha, therefore they're egotistic, they have chutzpah, and the level of Levina connects those two things together. Okay, so we're going to start on page 40. It says, everyone except Chalbana did. The Chayes of Kedusha. It comes into the 10 crowns of shame is Chel Bola Vayakieno. It says he swallows it, and the level that it controls the person, the evil controls the person to get the person to do evil. What does it mean? What does that mean? That Kedusha now becomes absorbed in the evil in a way that the evil controls the Kedusha. So he says like this, because of sparks of Kedusha before the world was created, right? There was a world of Tehu. Tehu had the Shviras HaKelim, like we learned. The Kelim broke. The sparks of Kedusha from the lofty level of Tehu fell down into Tikkun. Like it says in the Pasuk, Vayimlech Vayamos, they ruled, they died, they ruled, they died. That was Lifnei Melech Melech Lifnei Yisrael. Those are the kings, the 7 kings of Edom before the 8 kings, but 7 of them died before there was a Jewish king. And also, so that's number 1, what brought Kedusha into evil. Second thing that brought Kedusha into evil, Machmas Chayei Tzadas also brought evil into the world in a way that it controls Kedusha. Like it says in Sefer Gulgul, Lefikach Nimshem Lahem Chayes Bam Shubeseit Golus. Therefore, Elokus comes down into Klipa in the form of Golus. What does Golus mean? Golus means somebody else controls you. When you are in control, you're not in exile, because then you're in control. What is the definition of exile? That another nation or another person controls you. What happens to the concept of Kedusha that the Shechina is in Golus, or it calls it Golus? So before we go further. So therefore what happens, this whole thing, is Kedusha becomes controlled by evil. The reason why he went into Golus, to add Gadim, which l'chayda doesn't make sense. The Gemara says the reason why Hashem put the Jews into Golus to make more Gadim, to make more converts. But l'chayda, we know that the Jews are not into having converts. On the contrary, we try to dissuade them from becoming a convert. So Chassidus explains what does it mean. It doesn't mean physical converts. It means because of Golus, there's sparks of Kedusha all over the place. Because they fell into Klipa, which is all over the place. So now there's sparks of Kedusha all over the world. So Jews go into Golus in America and South America, Europe, whatever it is, because there's sparks of Kedusha in these places. When Jews do Torah mitzvahs in those places, they elevate the sparks of Kedusha that fell into those places. Because if all the Jews, let's say, would be in Eretz Yisrael, and there's sparks of Kedusha all over the world, how are those sparks going to be elevated? So in other words, it's like a catch-22 situation. because of Shviras HaKelim, because of Chetei Tzadas, because of Yidden doing Averis, so therefore the Shechina goes into Golus, because now Kedusha doesn't have control, Klippa is controlling Kedusha. So therefore there's sparks of Kedusha all over the world. So therefore, what?
Except Egypt.
No, those sparks were elevated in it.
Egypt,
but now for business you can go back because new sparks go there. But the essential sparks of Egypt were all elevated when the Jews left Mitzrayim. Therefore, there's a mitzvah, you're not allowed to live in Egypt. Because the whole purpose of Jews living in a place is to elevate the sparks. If there's no sparks to elevate, you're not allowed to live there. The same thing in Esav. Hoyu nitzutz is there were sparks of Kedusha like Rameir, Unkel, Ishmael, and Naftali, and Vaivadya. These are all gating tzedek. Rameir came from Gadim, Unkel was again, Shmai and Naftali, and the teachers of Hillel and Shammai would Gadim. Vaivadya was a very famous Vaivadya ger tzedek. Hoyu tzayid befik, Hoyu rei to Yitzchok. What did Yitzchok want to do by blessing Esav? He wanted he wanted to elevate Esav by himself, not through Yaakov Avinu. In other words, Yitzchak Avinu wanted to give Esav brachas not because he was fooled by him. Like the way you learn without Chassidus, that Yitzchak was this old senile, blind, half-blind guy. And Esav was a shrewd mamzer, and he tricked his father, and he wanted to get the brachas. And then Rivka outsmarted her husband Yitzchak. No, very nice. Sounds pretty sick and pitiful to say that's what Yitzchak Avinu was. So what's the answer? Yitzchak exactly knew who Esav was. Like it says, Shem Shemai, Kol Yaakov. But Yitzchak understood exactly who Esav was. What did Yitzchak want to do? Yitzchak saw sparks of Kedusha that were coming out of Esav, Kitzai Befiv. So therefore, Yitzchak wanted to elevate the sparks of Kedusha that Esav buried in Klippa. Now though the elevation is through Yaakov, which is Zoh, Shekolah, Shemal, and Nechlolim. All the revelations from above are included in Zoh, which is the level of Yaakov, Tikkun. And the Kedusha comes into the level of Yitzira during the weekdays, the Kambes, Lalis, Misham, Levar, Canal. So normally the birur of Kedusha is through Yaakov. And by the way, even Yaakov wanted to elevate Esav when he sent the gifts and all that stuff. And Yaakov thought he would accomplish that, but he saw Esav was coming to kill him anyway. So he realized he can't elevate the Esav. So he said, okay, I'll come eventually, we'll do it one day.
So Esav knew that he's blessing Yaakov, not Esav. He knew it. When he put his hand and gave
at that time he didn't know. But he thought he was elevating Esav.
I thought you just said, you're talking about his...
No, he knew Esav was Esav, and he wanted to bless Esav.
But how could he not know this is not Esav? He knew he was Yaakov.
He didn't know. He said the hands feel like Esav, and their voice sounds like Yaakov. Yitzchak thought, really, that he's blessing Esav. Why did he want to bless Esav if he knew who he was? Because he wanted to elevate all the sparks that fell into Klippa. So he thought, not because he thought Esav was a tzaddik, that the guy tricked his old man. He wanted to elevate the sparks in Klippa. And when he blessed Esav, he blessed Yaakov, he thought it was Esav. Then when he realized he was, and therefore Chassidus explains, why did those brachas have to come through deceiving Yaakov, because there are two great brachas to come through normal channels. Sometimes the crazy thing, like there's a Mashiach, Moshe, all those have to come from forbidden things. Because normal things can't come normal. I mean, super lofty things, crazy things cannot come through normalcy. Crazy things gotta come through craziness. So remember, trickery, b'chochma, Rashi says, it means lying, it means b'chochma. There had to be the level of chochma, bittul, to be able to get those brachas.
That's our name.
Ach Yitzchak ratze she'ezeh shelei aidei zah. What Yitzchak wanted, What Yitzchak wanted, that it shouldn't go through Yaakov. It should be his galus eretz al yonim be'esav atzmei. He wanted to reveal such a level of kedusha into Esav, like v'yitan l'cha alakim, all these greatest, unbelievable blessings. V'yanteis is v'ribi or. He wanted to give an abundance of or. Yitzchak thought like this: if he's going to give an abundance of or, that light, that abundance of light, is going to elevate Esav. Because to refine good from bad, you have to reveal a tremendously great level of light, that you can gather all the sparks of Kedusha that are there. In other words, like this: light attracts light. So when there's Kedusha in the Klippa, there's light in the Klippa. So by Yitzchak wanted, by revealing great lights higher than Zoh, he'll automatically take out all the sparks of Kedusha. The bottom line is, that's not the way that Hashem wanted it to happen. It had to go through natural ways. That's why the same thing, tzaddikim are very powerful. Why didn't they bring Mashiach themselves? Because that's not what the ultimate goal is. The ultimate goal is that we peasants bring Mashiach. For a Rebbe to bring Mashiach, okay, great, Mashiach comes. But who did it? Hashem wants the peasants. The peasants should bring Mashiach.
Moshe Rabbeinu Rabbi was instrumental.
He's a nice guy, yeah. Okay. So, therefore, what did Yitzchak bless Esav? Mital HaShemayim, which is tal of Atik, that flows into Zoh in the level of Shemayim, Umishmani or Shemin is Chachma, Abba Yosef Brata. The father founded the daughter which is Eretz, which is Malchus. V'dot Salam Tal VaShemin de Le'ela. What did Yitzchak want to do? What did he say? V'yitan l'cha Elokim, Hashem should give you Mital HaShemayim, from the level of Atik, Mishmani Ha'aretz, Mital HaShemayim, Umishmani Ha'aretz. He wanted to bring down the level of Atik all the way down into Eretz. That's what Yitzchak wanted to do. So when he gave the bracha, it was to Yaakov, but when he gave the bracha to Esav, what he thought he was giving, he wanted to be Mamshech, Atik, all the way down into Eretz. Chayei and then it will be elevating of the sparks. He says, where do we see such a thing in Gashmis? He says like this: when the sun shines, then the water of the earth becomes elevated. Like the dew evaporates. What makes it evaporate? Like the dew. What makes the dew evaporate from the ground? The Shoyev lachluchas oretz, ve'ed yalim in oretz. Or ner lifnei avuka gedel, a candle in the presence of a big torch. She'eves eraneris, the big flame, so to speak, absorbs within it the little flames. So what did Yitzchak want to do? Chayei ha'od el yena. Through this great revelation above, there comes an abundance from above. He wanted to elevate all the sparks that are in Klippa. The problem was wrong timing. And not only wrong timing, it has to be through Avodah and not through Gilui Momayla. It can be through a revelation from above, because then it's not our doing. Hashem wants us to do it. Us to elevate the sparks, not to have a revelation from above that elevates all the sparks. It has to be the Adam Ki Yaakov, the person has to do his Avodah. In a bracha which is L'mayla Miseder Ishtalshus. Why did this have to be higher than Ishtalshus? He says like this: Because if you say the Esav Kedailei. Okay, the difference between encompassing levels and internalized levels. Okay, Ishtalshus is mamala. Right? Ishtalshus is the permeating level. If it permeates, it needs to have a vessel for it. If there's no vessel, it can't absorb it. Because mamala means, like the eye has the power of seeing. You don't have the vessel. The eye, you're not going to see. You can't do those things. It doesn't work. Makif level, which is the superficial level, the encompassing level that doesn't directly affect it, it only indirectly affects it. Over there you don't need a vessel, because it's not permeating it. In order to elevate Esav, what Yitzchak wanted to do, he couldn't do it through a gilui of ishtalshelus, because his world needs a vessel. Esav is not a keli for that. Klipa is not a keli for kedusha. That's what Chassidus explains. In Golus, the Jews are on the down and the Goyim are on the up. Why? Because we sinned, so we're not a vessel anymore for kedusha. And because we're not a vessel anymore for kedusha, we don't have it. Revealed, right? So why do Goyim have it? They also sin. The answer, Goyim don't need a keli. Because the elukus doesn't come internally within them. It's a superficial power. That superficial power doesn't need a vessel. If it doesn't need a vessel, they can be very powerful. So when the Jews are powerful, like it's a V'rav Yavit Soyer, the older one will serve the younger one. When the Jews are powerful, so then Kedusha is manifested in powerful, so then Klipa doesn't have nourishment. What?
Last Russia of ISR, no?
What?
Jews up,
Shazeh comes a neifel?
no?
No. It's with beginning Rashi's have told us. When Rivka had went to the yeshiva of shame to ask what's going on in her stomach, Rav Yavitzar Rashi said, Shazeh comes a neifel. You're talking about, that last Rashi of the Chayei is not about Esav and Yaakov.
No, but it's about...
Aprech of Nafal. That pasuk, okay.
Sober is not cause and effect?
No. The Shtalshelis, Mamale is Ilo Va'olu. Makiv, there's no Keli. So Goyim don't need a Keli. So therefore, but Yitzchak wanted to bless Esav. He couldn't do it with powers of Ishtalshelis because Ishtalshelis needs a vessel to be able to absorb the brachas. So he had to give V'yiton L'cholakim all the way up there. Tal Atik. And that's when, now that Chassidus asked the question, is such unbelievable brachas, why does it say V'yiton L'cholakim? It should say V'yiton L'cholavaya. Elokim is, because there's a level of Elokim which is superpower. Elokim is power, might. There's a level of Elokim that's higher than Avaya. Yudke Vavke is still connected to world. There's a level of Elokim, like in Talo Shemayim, the level of Atik, that's so powerful, and only that Yitzchak thought would be able to elevate Esav. And even that couldn't, not because he couldn't do it. It wasn't the time yet for that to happen, and the Birurim have to go through Yaakov, not through Yitzchak. Huh? No, it had to go through Yaakov, not through Yitzchak.
Is it possible that we were really meant to, get more gated? Because if you don't expand, it's the opposite.
No.
If you're always going out and conquering, then you don't get conquered. That's just the.
That's within Yiddishkeit itself.
And
no.
that's exactly what happened to us in history.
According to Torah, we're not. If a person was born a goy, let him be a goy. That's the purpose why Hashem made him.
If we had done that, we would have been.
Why?
Maybe we wouldn't have been in this situation.
Faket, we would have been stronger. Wouldn't have been in Golus, we would have been stronger.
I'm sorry?
Would have been stronger, wouldn't have been in Golos.
We would have been stronger.
Yeah. We wouldn't be in Golos under Goyish jurisdiction.
I know. We would have conquered all the time. If we went out...
Our purpose is not to conquer Goyim.
But
Our purpose is to conquer the sparks of Kedusha that Hashem placed in the world.
But that mentality makes us be defeated all the time.
No, it's not true.
If you don't want to expand, the opposite happens to you. People will
Expand within Kedusha. Our avoid is to expand within
we live in a
Kedusha.
physical world.
In Shlomo Melech's time, in fact, the Rambam says, the big Bezdin decree, we're not accepting Gadim. And again, when there's the best time of the Jewish people, Bezdin said they're not accepting Gadim because people weren't sincere. The Jews were on top of the world, they want to join the guys on top. So Bezdin said officially, policy, Judaism, no Gadim.
I'm not talking about Gadim.
Yes, you're talking about Gadim.
I'm talking about like physical conquer and conquest of other nations.
Why should Eretz Yisrael want America?
Because if you don't expand to your neighboring countries, which Israel didn't, then they will take you.
Only if you let them. But again, you're talking about two different things. Talking about sparks of Kedusha versus physical land. Hashem gave us Eretz Yisrael. He didn't. Mashiach comes, it's going to spread out. But Hashem doesn't want us to go conquer lands. It's not. So he says, okay. That's why Yitzchak called him in, and he said, get me food. I will bless you before Hashem. Again, Lifnei Hashem, we learned in all the other higher than Yud Kivavki. Since Yitzchak, what did Yitzchak want? Laham shechel Esav atzmi. Yaakov, he wanted to bring down this level of Kedusha, to elevate Esav, to elevate Klippa, without the level of Yaakov, which is the Makif. Because Yitzchak was looking from higher down, higher to lower. He says, okay, how are we going to get Klippa elevated? Let's give it a superpower, an injection of superpower Kedusha, and that will elevate it. He made a mistake, Yitzchak. Why? Yitzchak can't elevate Esav. Only Yaakov could. Why? Because, now the Rebbe says like this, if what Yitzchak wanted to do would have happened, then all this powerful surge of Kedusha would go into Esav, but it would become absorbed within him. Instead of affecting it, elevating it, the Kedusha would become absorbed within it. Or nothing would have been left from Esav. One of the two. Yeah. One of two things out there would have happened. Either would have zapped him out. So again, you're not elevating Esav, you're breaking it. The role of a Jew is ultimately not to break Klippa, but to elevate Klippa. That was their sin. That's not what Hashem wants. Or he says, the Kedusha would have been absorbed in Esav, it wouldn't have elevated it. It was just kind of disintegrated, the Kedusha. Yeah, whatever. That's only through Yaakov Zod the Kedusha. Only Yaakov Avinu is able to elevate Esav. Then the sparks will be refined from Esav, and therefore his Kim Yitzchak Gamkin Leberchas Yaakov.
This means somebody who doesn't have a keli or potential.
Every Jew has a keli. Goyim don't need kelim. So Esav even though he had a din of a Jew. But again, it's not the same level of a Jew.
One could say it's not my job to elevate so-and-so.
The what?
Could say it is not my job to elevate so-and-so. It wasn't Yaakov.
If Hashem put you in a situation where you do meet somebody, Hashem put you at the present in that situation, when Jonathan Sachs told, thank you. Jonathan Sachs told the Rebbe, the situation I find myself in, first time he met the Rebbe, he's asking the Rebbe what he should do. He said, in the situation I find, the Rebbe stopped him, corrected him, and says, a Jew doesn't find himself in a situation. Hashem puts a person in a situation. Hashem, the footsteps of man are planned from Hashem. Hashem puts every Jew at a certain place at a certain time, not before, not later, because they have to elevate at that moment those sparks of Kedusha that come in contact with him. Sometimes, if it's evil, it's to negate it. If it's klipas nega, to elevate it. Yeah, because you have to try it. You have the same thing by the Meraglim. Hashem said to Moshe Rabbeinu, I'm not telling you to do it. Okay? So man, we learned why, because to elevate the 7 nations, okay. So why did Moshe Rabbeinu do it anyway? Hashem said, no, why do you do it anyway? Hashem said, you can't do it. Moshe Rabbeinu said, let's try anyway. You have to try. That's what Torah says. Even if you can't, if you think you can't do something, Hashem says try it anyway. Try it. Maybe you'll get some kayach that you won't know.
Hashem says in halacha you're not supposed to do so and so. I have to try it?
No. Hashem didn't tell me you're not allowed to send spies. Hashem said, I'm not commanding you to send spies. There's a big difference between saying you're not allowed to send spies, then Moshe Rabbeinu wouldn't have sent spies.
In fact, he said send if you want.
Yeah, I'm not commanding you. I'm not commanding you. You want to do it, do it.